Welcome back to the channel. So in this episode, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, right? Yeah. Emotional intelligence. And this is for the men. Like, you think you don't have emotions. You think you're not supposed to feel emotions. Well, we're going to discuss about that. Yeah.
Emotional intelligence is about you being able to recognize your own feelings. For example, recognizing that, oh, I am angry. And after recognizing, you're able to understand. Understanding like, oh, so I'm angry because, why am I angry? Maybe I've overworked and I've been overstimulated. I was in town. They pushed me around. This taxi guy insulted me. So you understand after recognizing and then now processing all that and channeling your behavior based on that knowledge. That's emotional intelligence. So after understanding yourself, it should be able to guide what action you will take next. That's an emotionally intelligent person. For example, if you've recognized that you are angry, it starts with self-awareness, being self-aware. And this requires self-love, obviously. And after that, then you have the responsibility to help yourself out of that anger. So you're taking an action to aid yourself so that you don't splash all these emotions on everybody else. And it also requires you to understand other people's emotions. Because if you can be aware of your emotions, then you can be aware of other people's emotions and you'll be able to understand, I think this person is triggered and I need to stop this conversation here because something I said must have rubbed them off. And that now is affecting your behavior because you have understood their emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. And it requires you to have distance from yourself in a sense. Like if you can just hold yourself back, you're feeling an emotion, instead of going along with what you're feeling, you first, take a step back. I'm feeling angry. It's deep, but no, I shouldn't act upon it.
Sure.
Let me do this instead. Let me do that instead. Yeah. So it requires a bit of distance. And there are ways to be emotionally intelligent. First, give me the phone. Then we can expound more on that. Because there's specific definitions that we just need to air out. And then, yeah. So ways to be to develop emotional intelligence, actually, it starts with you practicing self-reflection. You've spoken about that, you reflect on yourself. And this, I think, it comes in intervals. So every time you're dealing with people, every time you're feeling down, every time things are not going well for you, always find time to reflect on those times, like after they have happened. Or obviously, you might act on your emotions during the moment, but later on, think about it, think about your actions. And that way you can work to fix them. That way you can work to develop emotional intelligence, to become better at managing your emotions. The next one is develop empathy. This is now where you direct it outwards to other people like you. The people you deal with, how are you empathizing with them? If someone comes at you and they're yelling at you, how are you reading such situations? How are you reading them? The next one is develop communication skills. Practice active listening and effective communication. Most times we're listening to our inner voices and we're not listening to the other person who's talking to us. So this requires you to just hold yourself back, listen to the other person, be present, ask questions. They're open-ended questions that you can ask someone to allow them to speak more. And then you practice listening skills. Yeah. And then the next one is manage stress. Learn healthy ways to manage stress and negative emotions. Healthy ways to manage stress and negative emotions. This is a big one because these are emotions that come unexpectedly or they boil up over time. Yeah, and when they appear, we just go along with it. We don't even bother to distance ourselves and reflect on them. So learning ways to manage them can be through meditation, can be through working out. You work out on a daily basis, or it can be through doing something that excites you, maybe singing, maybe just something that excites you. That way you can manage stress. The fifth one is seek feedback. ask for feedback from others to gain a better understanding of your emotional intelligence. This is going to be a tough one because not many of us can go around asking people like, did I hurt you? Did I overtalk? Did I offend you? There are people who are going to be very straightforward and did I offend you? If you know that you offended the person, there's no need of asking. Just apologize, apologize or make it up to them. Make it up to them. Yeah. I mean, you can't seek feedback. This is a possibility when you're doing it with people that you're familiar with, people you're close with. That's when you can seek feedback from them because they will give you their honest opinion and you won't take it personal if at all it comes in strong. Yeah. That's how you develop emotional intelligence. Yes.
Okay, so emotional intelligence. A lot of people think that all you need in life is IQ, and then something comes and hits it, and you're like, oh, there's also EQ as well. Meaning that it has a lot to do with social interactions, first of all, but also interactions with your internal self. And the advantage about having a good emotional intelligence score is that once you have a really good score on that, you're able to manage your emotions. You're able to help yourself manage really stressful situations. You're able to maneuver conflict better. And actually, you're actually able to even form better and stronger bonds. For example, in marriage, a lot of men say that, man, it's a whole logical thing. I'm not going to, do this, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And then we sort of come up with ways to explain ourselves out of things, especially maybe if you're having a conflict with a wife, with a girlfriend. And then we just approach it from the logical point of view. And then we're not considering how she felt in the moment. For example, a man can say, a lady can say that, I don't feel loved. And then the guy will say, but on Friday, we actually went out and you felt like, and then you say that you felt loved. Wasn't that sort of thing?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I just don't feel loved. So the guy won't get it. He'll refer back to reference, the point in time when things were okay. But there's a book called The Superior Man. I'm forgetting that.
Amazing book.
It's a very amazing book.
Amazing
I read it
book.
when I was at university. Some good years back. And
In preparation to become a man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I had just come from a relationship that didn't work and I didn't know how to handle relationships. And I would find that maybe there's similar patterns in terms of if I'm with this person, so this person, there's certain similar patterns that maybe might rub people off the wrong way. So I'm like, okay, maybe problem isn't them, maybe it's with me. So I started reading that book, and the book says, so there's somewhere where he says that with a lady or with a woman, it's not, you don't go back in time to reference when things are good and things like that. It's just how she feels in the moment. Yeah. So how do you handle that moment is the most important skill that a man can actually have in that, that sort of period. Same thing with conflict. You go to work, you have people who you're working with, and then let's say there's conflict. How do you handle that as a leader? So as a leader, now we're going into so many aspects, social aspects especially. Excuse me. So there's the passive-aggressive person, then there's the assertive person, then there's the overly aggressive person as well. So where do you lie? So, and as with assertive behavior, you acknowledge that there's been conflict, maybe in the workplace, and then like, how do I handle this conflict? And say, okay, listen to both people. Don't choose sides. Don't be partial. Just actually be impartial. And that also contributes to actually being emotionally intelligent. And then you say, okay, I've listened to person A's story and person B's story. So I'm thinking this is how we're going to resolve this. We're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. But there's sometimes when in conflict, there's even no answer. There's literally no answer in conflict.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're like, how do I come up with a way to manage this conflict? I was reading a book by Ben Horowitz. the hard thing about hard things. And in the company, he was saying that
The title of the book is The Hard Thing.
the hard thing about hard things.
Interesting
That's the title of the
title.
book.
Interesting title.
By
Yeah.
Ben Horowitz. And he says that there's a time when he was, running a company, and then there was this group of software developers who were screaming like obscenities, cuss language. And then the other ones were like, I think that's a problem, like that's a real issue. But then in his mind, he knew that, okay, some of the people who actually scream obscenities are very good, actually contributing a lot to the software project within the company. And it's like, how am I going to handle this? If he might lose them, but he doesn't want to lose them. But at the same time, he just wants to keep the peace within the organization. And I'm forgetting how he handled it. But he didn't give a really clear answer. And sometimes with conflict, you might just not have an answer. You might just say, you know what? Person is like that, that is them. And that's fine. Like, we are going to live with each other one way or the other, but person A is like that, and person B is like that, and that is it. So you form the boundaries. You find a way to have boundaries, but also at the same time not to overstep yours and say, okay, just because I have boundaries, you shouldn't have boundaries as well. Or you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of a give and take with emotional intelligence, but there's so much within emotional intelligence that one needs to understand. Now, me being a married man, and this goes especially to the single guys out there, or those guys who are trying to date people and things like that, you sometimes we live so much in our minds, in our heads,
Yeah.
and logic isn't always the answer, right? And you've got to approach relationships with people, not just with the girlfriend, but with people from the emotional point of view. And then it will still go back to Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he says, look for the win-win situation, right? You have the ability to interact with people, but look at a win-win. If I am coming to visit someone, how do I visit them? Do I just visit them, or can I take a gift or something for them? Next time they'll be like, oh, so-and-so thought about me and actually brought me this sort of thing or this gift or whatever it was. They're like, here in Africa, we mainly go with food because it's, if you want to kill conflict, man, just bring food.
Bring food, yeah.
Bring food at the table, So sometimes you just bring food, like, hey, let me just go buy bread, let me just go buy milk. Hey, man, have here. And it feels like it's now two-way. We are interacting, we are dancing together. You're benefiting, I'm benefiting, in a sense. So with emotional intelligence, you need to look at, number one, how you feel about yourself, and then how your interactions affect other people. And then stop and then evaluate and then ask, like you said, seek feedback. Did what I say piss you off? Read also body language.
Yeah.
So it's not just the emotions, there's also body language. Body language also is also part of it. I remember in my senior 6 vacation, I was reading a book on psychology, and they were talking about body language. How do you read body language? Number one, look at the eyes, right? The eyes speak a lot, right? Sometimes people are shy to look into people's eyes and things like that, but it's very important. Then look at how they are sitting. Are they seated in a slouched position, or are they sitting attentively? Right? Most likely, if a person is probably shrugged like this and is probably like this in a sense, most likely then they're not listening to you. They are most probably boring you. You're most probably boring them, sorry.
You're borrowing
whatever,
them, yeah.
like whatever you're talking about just isn't relevant. So he'll just sit back and sometimes we don't notice that.
We're in our heads.
We're in our heads.
Yeah.
And that's emotional intelligence. You've got to analyze and say, maybe what I'm talking about is not interesting enough, maybe for this particular individual. How else can I sort of approach this to make it more interesting for the both of us? Wow.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence is a huge topic.
And
Yeah.
to emphasize, it starts with yourself. If you can't be self-aware, like you guys have already mentioned, then you cannot be aware of the person next to you. So we have a tendency to feel a certain way and then just shove it under the carpet because we have deadlines. I don't have time to feel sad right now. And then you just shove it under the carpet. And in the same way, you're going to shove a friend's sadness under the carpet because you're not even able to take the time to identify, oh, I'm sad, recognize, and then understand, why am I sad? What triggered me? And then after that, take an action. So it can be an action that can help remedy your sadness. For example, maybe when I'm sad, I listen to music and then my mood is elevated, or I dance a little bit. So that's emotional intelligence. It helps you to manage yourself. And so if you can manage yourself in those low moments, you can easily motivate yourself to come back up. So when you're working and you feel like this is not working out, you sense, ooh, I'm beginning to feel demotivated. Let's take action to bring back the motivation. What do I usually do to bring back my motivation? What motivates me? Like you said, when you watch podcasts and listen to other people that have already made it, you feel motivated. So you take action to do that and get yourself up. So having emotional intelligence improves your productivity and your performance, even in your workplace.
Yeah, very, very true. Productivity. I like the fact that you brought up productivity because it's like at the core of being emotionally intelligent. If you're not able to be emotionally intelligent, you're not able to be productive. You're just not able to be productive.
So I'm just thinking about, again, just going back to the other elements that make up emotionally intelligent people. I think one of the things that people will normally avoid is conflict. That's something that is natural and should be accepted, especially when we are interacting with other people. Sometimes it's not okay, or I would say it's not okay to be scared of conflict. And I used to be like this a lot of times. So I had to learn ways of listening. Number one, it first starts with listening to yourself, as she said. You listen to yourself. And then as the person is interacting with you, what is your mind saying to yourself? Is your mind saying, wow, you messed up? Is your mind telling you such things? So you're listening to yourself internally. Then you're also listening to what they're saying. And sometimes we overreact on emotional outbursts. Sometimes we forget that it's just in that moment. That's all it is. That's all it is. So handle the situation in that moment. Don't say things like, oh, you're so ungrateful. How can you be angry at that? Such a thing. I've done this for you. I've done this for you. Parents with their teenagers or their children, maybe husband and wife, maybe co-workers, or could even just be someone on the road that you must meet on the road. Maybe it's road rage and all these sorts of things. So you listen to your internal self, and then you begin to maybe put yourself in the shoes of the individual and say, if I say this to this person, and if I say the same things to myself, how would I feel? There's this book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah. He says that when you're angry, just jot down on a piece of paper, like all things you'd love to say to that person, and then burn it up. Then sleep over it. You might find that probably the next day you're in a much better mood. You wouldn't say those words.
And then in the book, he gives an example of Abraham Lincoln. That's what he used to do, like when he was angry at his ministers or someone he had delegated work to and they didn't complete it. He would just write on a sheet. They noticed it when he passed away. They went into his files and they saw that. So he would write and then he just keeps it away. Then the next day he comes back, he forgets that he actually wrote that. So yeah, that's a good strategy. Just write and then think about it. Go and do something else. Sometimes we actually looking for avenues to express our emotions, then we start causing problems, we start bringing about trouble. And yet that's not a good way to handle things. And it starts by knowing yourself. It just starts by knowing who you are. And I think the best way for you to know who you are is by finding like heroes or like people who inspire you. When you find people who inspire you, you pick up on their life or you pick up on their qualities. The best way, I would say read books, but most people don't have the discipline to sit down and read books unless if you're like so curious and so interested in like just learning more. Because to learn, you need to be curious. You need to be curious about something, and curiosity starts with like knowing that you're missing out on something and looking for that thing that you're missing out on. So you gain curiosity. But if you can't do that, if you can't sit down and read books because you're too busy, you have moments when you're free. Start watching maybe a series. And I say a series, not a movie, because series, over time, you're growing with the character. You're growing with the character. As you watch this character, you're picking up on them. You know, you pick up on their qualities. When you watch Peaky Blinders, you see how Shelby conducts his business. They take you through his story, how he starts as this guy who is very tough, and over time he becomes a family man. He starts learning to love his wife and love the people around. Before it's all about business. Yes, he's still a family man because he has his brothers, but they're doing things the way men do things. And now when he gets a wife, all of a sudden he's more open, he's more emotional, he's more empathetic, over time. And you start picking up on his character, and then you read yourself as well as you're watching the series. That's a strategy I use for myself, and I think it can help those who are lazy to read.
Okay, and lastly, maybe a technique that can help you to distance yourself from the emotions is breathing. Breathing in and out. Breathe in and out before you like burst out. And also, yes, I know you're so busy, but take that time off to actually understand your feelings. It's so important.
Take the time to understand your feelings.
And just add to that, the most emotionally intelligent people are the most present people. I'll just give a scenario.
That means you should practice being present.
Yes.
The scenario.
I'll just give a scenario. So in the book, I think it's The Wealth Superior Man, which is another book. They say a man is like a ship and a woman is like the wind. So the wind pushes the ship. It can come in any direction or from any direction. And then ship moves maybe to the left or to the right, or maybe it's pushed back. But the man has an anchor, and his anchor itself could be going this direction. Now, the idea here is that in conversation with the woman or anyone else, basically, take the wind, look at the wind, and then flow with the wind. Say, for example, someone says, I feel angry about whatever has pissed them off. And then you can say, oh, well, why does that make you angry? Right? You're flowing with the wind. You're now digging deeper. So someone says a comment, dig deeper into it. I'm like, what's that all about? What's in here? Right? So the wind has come, flow with the wind. Don't resist it. Versus someone who says that I am angry at this, and like, why are you always angry? Why are you always angry? And that's why you find that some people might not even have friends. I'm sorry to say, but some people don't actually have friends because of not being really emotionally intelligent. And sometimes it can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on the structure. For example, it could be a good thing simply because it helps you eliminate friends who are fake. You think you have friends,
or eliminate friends who are genuine. It can go either way.
It can go either way. So you're supposed to strike a balance. So you rather be on the spectrum where you eliminate friends who are fake. You rather be there. Depending on the level you are at in your EQ, you might eliminate friends who are actually genuine or friends who are just fake.
The last one is that if you're able to understand yourself, be emotionally intelligent, you're able to affect those around you with your emotions. Like someone is coming at you with so much energy and so much anger, but because you're calm, you affect them. They slowly by slowly match up with your energy, and you have to make sure your energy has to be a lot stronger than theirs, because if they sense any bit of you're not sure, like hesitation, you're not sure about, then they will overpower you with their emotions, with their anger, with whatever they're throwing at you. But if you're strong at your core because you understand yourself, you're able to affect them and stand your ground, and then help them adjust or help them improve on how they're feeling. Yeah.
Can I add something to that? Just one more thing.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is someone's in an emotionally high state probably, and probably someone's in an emotionally low state, right? Now, in psychology, the idea is to mirror. If you want to achieve better results, is to mirror them. So high energy. Like, oh, I'm so angry at this. Hey, by the way, yes, what they did was wrong.
Yeah.
So you match the energy, and then you slowly
take it down a notch. Because at the end of the day, it's like looking into the mirror, and you're sort of able to resonate with that individual. So they feel like you resonate with them at the same frequency or the same level, whatever it will be, the same emotional state. So you take it on, match their level of energy, right? Because sometimes when you're not matching it, they'll feel like you're not listening to them. I think it comes down to like scenarios. If someone is coming at you to have a hearing ear or something like that, like they want you to understand them, mirror them. Then if someone is coming to you because they feel you've offended them or because you've angered them, then that's when you take the approach of having a stronger emotional core that can affect them. Yes. That's been it for this session. It's been an exciting one. Man, you can be emotional. It's okay.